Hey, dear ones. Aquarian Humanitarian here. So, in our last 8 videos, we were focused on the qualities of a Kamalayan or consciousness learner. Today, I'm here with Sir Tato Malay again, and we would like to discuss topic that I think is relevant today, and that is aliens and
Mm.
ETs. We don't have, I don't, at least I don't have a set script, but I have questions that I would like to ask him. So with that said, I want to welcome and introduce Sir Tato Malay.
Hello and welcome to planet Earth. So,
So I,
how
Kuya
are
Tato,
you?
I'm good, I'm
Yep.
good. And yeah, so thank you for your time in the last 8 sessions that we had. We were talking about Kamalayan learner, the qualities of
Mm.
Kamalayan learner. So if anybody who hasn't listened to it, they can. I would leave the links when I post this one.
Yep.
So today I wanted to discuss the post from your Facebook, and I thought it would be a great transition from Kamalayan consciousness qualities to what's been hot. I think this is a hot topic. So and I don't want to shield anybody from this. Okay, what we do here is we tell the truth. Some will resonate, some will not. Some will be ready to hear it, some is not going to be ready, and that's okay. We're here to share our experiences. So, with that said, I want to ask Sir Tato Malay to describe in his own words what is alien and extraterrestrials.
Well, and when you say alien, that means a stranger or somebody who's not really from that particular place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but he's practically there in that particular place, no? Although he's not really from there. So that's the word. That's where the word alien came from. I mean, originally not from a particular place, but from another place.
From another
So
place.
uh, that means many would ask, who are really the aliens that we are talking about? So we would just, imply that these beings who are from outer space, who are not here on Earth. So that's how we actually acknowledge the word alien in terms of who they are. When they come here, they become aliens because they're not really from here. So, in other words, like for example, a tourist, an American tourist or a German tourist would come to Manila is considered an alien because he's not originally from the Philippines. So, practically, that's the whole idea of it. Now, the thing here is, who are really these aliens that we are really referring to?
Excuse me.
Are we are we also considered aliens? Of which I will say yes, we are all aliens. Why? Because we're not really from here, from Earth. Remember, I mean, Earth was colonized by other beings before, and they created a lot of beings, a lot of things that actually materialized here on Earth, which they brought from their own galaxies. Now, the thing here is, they planted many things like, well, of course, the plants, the animals, the rocks, the water, the, 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 the elements that would be needed to be able to create in the future human beings such as us. So, in other words, we are able to be. I mean, this was prepared for us for us to be able to survive in this kind of an environment. Because remember, the Earth during its early times had nothing except for what? It's just the crust. And then later on, water was put put into place, and then fire, which is practically that would cause the heat that would uh, neutralize the cold atmosphere. Most of the planets that we get to see, I mean, outside or the even the moon, if you would go there, I mean, you would not be able to stand the kind of condition or the weather that they have there because basically it's really cold unless the sun would practically be able to give warmth to it. But again, if you would really notice why the Earth, our Earth, was really what we call now the melting pot of many extraterrestrials. What do we mean by melting pot? Many ETs before came to Earth when Earth was already, uh, I would say, suitable in terms of, well, livable in terms of the weather, the plants that would make people or the beings they would have food in the future. So practically everything came to be known in several galaxies that there was this what they call uh, the Goldilocks. What are you familiar? Do you know what Goldilocks is? When people say it's a Goldilocks planet, what does it mean?
When you
You're
say
not sure.
Goldilocks, I think of Goldilocks Bake Shop.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's the only thing that we know of. But then
Mm.
again, when you say Goldilocks, the measurement or the rather the distance of the sun and the earth is suitable for for us to be able to appreciate the kind of situation or the conditions that it would create because not all planets are what we call Goldilocks planet. So
Okay.
practically the earth was chosen because of its position from the earth from the sun. So it wasn't so near so that it would become hot, or it wasn't too far that it would become too cold. So it was just right in that particular position or placement, or maybe I would say, yeah, position where we got the kind of warmth that would not melt us or destroy us or rather kill us for that matter. So when many beings from other planets heard of the Earth, uh, of planet Earth, they became interested and they came here. And what happened? They practically lived here. Many of them really lived here in terms of, uh, well, different civilizations practically stayed here. They they put up their own, I would say, uh, countries or yeah, because during that time they were not known as countries. I mean, they're territories. They tried to, really live in terms of who they are. Like during that time, the Anunnakis were really, I would say, having the kind of, I would say, civilization during their time. Excuse me. Drawing na naman ang aking throat.
I know, me too.
Yeah. In other words, the different civilizations. We have already records of them. I mean, proof of their existence. The Lemurians. I mean, we have a lot of them here. And not only that, still other beings from other planets would come and practically live here, and not only live here, but mate with human beings during that time. That's why we're all hybrid. All right, now we're getting far already from the kind of discussion that I think should be first be discussed um, when in the Bible it was said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness," because that is exactly where all these things started. So when they said that, who were they? And that was exactly the question I asked the church authorities because I wanted to study the Bible from the beginning. And so when I said, let's take up the Old Testament first and explain to me why they said, let us make man and not let I will make not I will make man in my image and likeness. Let us make man. That means plural. That was when I got interested to find out really exactly who these beings were. How come it's not singular? It's not one person or one being who said, I will create man in my image and likeness. And they say, we were made in the image and likeness of God. But who was this God? Because in the Bible, it was a one being. It was plural. And that was when I found out about the name Elohim. Elohim is attributed, well, it's actually acknowledged as the name of God, Elohim. But again, when I studied further the name Elohim, I discovered it wasn't really one being. It was the real meaning of Elohim is the power beings from above. So, ibig sabihin, marami pa rin sila, not only one. The singular way of saying Elohim is Eloha in the Bible. I mean, yes, in the ancient text, it's Eloha, one being. Pero when you say Elohim, it's a group of beings. So that is exactly where I discovered that we were all extraterrestrials, created by extraterrestrials, hybrid in a way. When they said, let us make man in our image and likeness, they actually combined what was already present on earth, which other beings created in the past. And then these latter beings, the Elohim, who came, uh, not exactly, um, not that I would say, they were not really the first ones to come here. Because when they came here, there was already human beings. I mean, there was already not human beings, but there was this particular uh, being called Homo. It was not yet known as Homo sapiens, Homo Homo erectus, Homo. So this was where they actually got to combine the genes of extraterrestrials and what was already existing here on Earth. And then from there, that was when they said, let us make man in our image and likeness. So they practically had advanced technology, maybe laboratories, where they created, well, if you would compare it to present day terms, you would say clones.
Oh,
You would create beings of, you know, when you say clones, they look like a particular person or particular being. So when they said that let's make man in our image and likeness, it was really made. They really made clones. But when they started creating all these clones that they created, they made a mistake. They found out that originally the reason why they wanted to create these beings was for them to become their slaves because they were trying to get some minerals from the earth to be taken back to their own planets. And so they wanted these new beings that they created to become slaves, to work for them, to be able to get all the things that they wanted, and then put it inside their spaceship. And then that's it. That was the role of the beings that they wanted to create, slaves. But they created a super being. They committed a mistake when they found out that they infused in us a soul. That was when the problem started. They knew we were a threat to them. That's why they tried to annihilate us at once. That's why if you actually look at the story of Noah's Ark, that was exactly the story of it. I mean, why Noah's Ark was created. Because there were some beings who wanted to save the human beings that were created, so they would put them inside Noah's Ark for them to survive because they didn't want everyone to really disappear on Earth. So again, when they discovered that they really created a very powerful being, they became afraid. And so that's exactly who we are. I mean, maybe if you would notice the text in the Bible, there were some there were some instructions that were said. Don't go near the tree of knowledge of the fruit and fruit. I mean, tree of the fruit, uh, tree of the good and evil. Right? You remember that? Never take any of the fruits there. And what did Eve do? She actually took one of the fruits and took a bite, and then that's it. I mean, that's when, as they say, innocence was shattered. So we were not anymore innocent. We were not anymore ignorant. We knew who we are. We were powerful beings. But when they discovered that, they tried again to downplay it, suppress our powers through the genes, through the chakras that were originally in us. I think we had something like 12 chakras instead of just 7 chakras. And they deactivated many of them so that we couldn't use those powers. And then when they were able to deactivate our powers, that was the time they let us go around. So again, as I've said, this is now being, I would say, discovered by people now that this is our original state of who we are, who we really are. Now the thing here is we are God as we. I mean, we are actually um, created as what in the Bible said, in the image and likeness of God. And when you are created in the image and likeness of God, you are exactly like God itself, not only an imitation, but exactly God itself, because we are spiritual beings. the soul that had been given to us. Actually, okay, lately, that explains why I really acknowledge the fact now that we have really two souls. Well, not exactly two souls. Actually, again, remember, the spirit in us is the God in us. That was what was originally put in us. Now, we have the soul. It's a soul is another spirit, but the soul knows that it is a human being in terms of having a body and at the same time being God. Now, the thing here is we were not exactly told as to what the soul can really become because all the things that had been told us in by church authorities is that when we die our soul will just go back to heaven and will live a life of a heavenly nature as spirits. That's all. But now I had been able to really discern the fact that it is not only we are not just going back to heaven as spirits, but practically even now here on earth, we are now able to live that kind of a heavenly being or a godly being because of the presence of those of the spirit in us of God and that soul. Now the thing here is people don't acknowledge it as such. That's why up to now they still think that people that we are just human beings having a soul, and then when we die, that soul is activated. But now it's not true anymore because we're coming out in the open to tell people, hey, we are now in heaven here on earth. Exactly what Jesus wanted to tell us when he came here that heaven is already here on earth because you are already godly people. And he was always mentioning the fact that, you know, you are gods and greater works than what I had done, you will do. So he acknowledged that. So again, as I've said, the church downplayed all these things. So we are not really aliens anymore here on earth. We are really practically present. I mean, can be present anywhere we want to go, anywhere we want to live because of our nature. Our spirit is really God's spirit. The divine spirit is in us. That's exactly what we have to acknowledge. Knowing now that we know, we have to really acknowledge because if people still would not accept it, they will still become helpless in their way of living. They will not know how to utilize their divine power, their divine consciousness. That's exactly what we're trying now to wake up to, people. It's not a religious thing. It's really something that is natural for us to be because right now, that's why all the beings in other parts of the galaxies, uh, they're watching us because we are the most powerful than them. See, they know, they acknowledge. That's why they're laughing at us because they see us helpless now with our problems, but they know who we are. And they said, you are more powerful than us. That's why they're watching us evolve to that higher level of consciousness to claim already our real consciousness. And the moment we are able to reach that kind of level of consciousness, we are now going to colonize everything out there. And they would welcome us because they know they are, we know, they know that we are more powerful than they. They want us to be, they want to be part of what we will be doing because now they're acknowledging it already that we are really the most powerful among everyone in any galaxy that you now would uh, see. So if you know that, this is who we are now. That's why we're trying to explain to people, hey, wake up. We are not anymore going to be sleeping for the longest time. We're supposed to awaken already ourselves who we are, because practically we have a lot of things to do, not only here on Earth, but practically in every other galaxy that we would want to colonize. Because we are now going to be tasked to be the ones to to guide the other beings that we are now going to create in other parts of the the galaxy practically. So
So for people who are not really familiar with this is like the first time that they're hearing this. Can you share as to around what time frame did you realize that you're an alien? You're a hybrid.
okay, all right. Before I answer that, can I just
Sure, sure, sure,
what do
sure.
you call this? Pause this for a while.
Yep.
I just have to go again to the place where I have to.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, so again, what was your question? How I got involved in this, or when did I learn?
Now, describe to us when was the first time, around what time frame did you realize that you are a hybrid?
Okay, during I would say the 80s, 80s. So how long ago was that? Uh, 80, 90, 20, 30 years ago, something, 30 years ago. I was invited to attend Bible study groups. And, I consented and I said, okay, I will attend. And then when I was inside already a Bible study group center, I noticed that they started reading the Bible from the middle. I said, if we're going to, if we're going to have a Bible study, don't we? I mean, I think we should start from the very beginning. I mean, from the Old Testament. So why are we now not doing that? And they said, well, we're more concerned first with the New Testament. I said, no, I'd like to talk about the Old Testament because I have a lot of questions there. Because I had been, when I was still in high school, I studied in a Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
Don Bosco. And then I would practically get to really read parts of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And somehow I noticed that there were some stories in the Old Testament that were not exactly explained to us properly by the church authorities. And I would ask the priests, the brothers of the Bosco, as to how they actually could explain this. And they said they cannot explain it. Just have faith. Just accept it. I said, what? I mean, these are things that I need to really understand. And here you are, you're just telling me to accept it. And so when I got older and I was able to really join a Bible study group, a fundamentalist group at that, they started they started reading it from the center, from the middle. And I said, why are we starting there? So I said, let's go back to the very beginning. No, we cannot go back. I mean, we cannot go there first. No, I said, I want a formal study group. If you cannot do this with me, I mean, I don't think I will continue studying the Bible here because I want to really study it from the very beginning. And they said, no, we don't do it that way. I said, okay, so I quit. I mean, I will just look for a place or another group. I found no group to really talk to me about the Old Testament. And so I said, okay, I'll just maybe try to study it on my own. I'll just read it and then find out exactly how I would really react to it. And then that time when I was reading it alone in my house, that was when I noticed that there was someone guiding me. And then when I was asking the questions, because I was asking myself, I wonder who this particular being is. Why is he doing this? Why is he acting this way? And then someone behind me, I mean, it wasn't really a voice. It wasn't really a conversation. But somehow I would get the feeling that I was being guided. So I would say when I was asking questions, somehow parang there was someone giving me the answers. Although parang it wasn't really an answer, but I was getting the right way of interpreting it. I mean, for me, I felt that it was something that I could accept, not knowing exactly why I was able to do that when I was just reading it literally. And then as we went along, I mean, as I went along reading many of the chapters, the guide continued giving me the kind of support or the guidance that I needed. And then that was when I asked already, wait, are we are we in a conversation? I mean, is there someone out there talking to me or whatever? And then somehow it wasn't really answering me. But then again, when I started again reading, I was getting the feeling, I would get the feeling that it was saying, that's us. What you're now reading is practically us. Okay, so that's you. So what is it that I need to learn? And so all throughout that time, when I was continuously reading the Old Testament, especially uh, the 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 I read that the chapters that would practically explain the extraterrestrials that they are, I was getting the confirmation right. I mean, right at once from my guide from inside me. And so I said, okay, I'll just continue doing this. And I was able to finish it knowing already that this was not a story of God, but a story of extraterrestrials. That is how I came to that conclusion. And then when I said, I think I got the answer. I think I got the kind of things that I needed to confirm to be confirmed. And then I tried sharing my knowledge or what I discovered to other people. And they said, look at the other ancient books where that Bible was taken or was derived from, like the Babylonian texts, the Sumerian texts, and the Assyrian texts. Uh, yeah, I think Assyrian texts. And so I tried to look for them. During that time, it was hard because there was no internet. So I really had to go to places where those texts were available in the sub libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a hard read. But then again, when I was being guided, again, it was easy for me to understand. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was not anymore really looking at something that was, I would say, vague for me in terms of, well, how I actually looked at it before in the past. And I got the answers at once. And from that time on, I knew already that ETs were really with us. And not only with us, but they created us because it was, let us make man in our image and likeness. So practically, that particular statement gave me the assurance that we were all made by these extraterrestrials, not God. So I said, this is not the story of God in terms of what they what the ministers and the priests would tell us. This is a story of extraterrestrials. And so I came out in the open already about it. And people got shocked. And even during the 80s, I mean, who would actually understand it that way?
Mm-hmm.
Until I would discover groups or people who believe in aliens. And so somehow they try to help me understand better. And the more I met, the more I actually talked about it and made friends with people who also shared the same kinds of interests. That was that was the real time that I was able to say, all right, I think I will not anymore doubt what I am learning. This is something that I need to share with people, and that's what exactly happened. So that's it. I mean, that's how I discovered all these things. Now the thing here is, have I talked to them? No. Have I seen one? No. But how come I know they are with me? Because I had that kind of feeling that every time I would practically be in that state, I would feel differently. I mean, there was something that
Mm-hmm.
was guiding me and somehow giving me that kind of assurance that, yes, we're going to help you understand everything that you're reading here. And true enough, I was able to get the whole picture.
So for
So
those
when I come,
people, so for
yes,
those
yes.
people who are, you know, who are watching this right now, how can you help them uh, be awakened
Now is
to
the
who they
time
are?
because right now there are a lot of videos in YouTube. There are a lot of, I mean, things in the internet that can actually help us understand this. Unlike before, I never had these things that we see now. I mean, in YouTube or in the internet. No, I mean Google for that matter. Anything that you ask now is already there. Uh, unlike during that time, it was only the Bible that I had and the assurance that I was being guided by my guides. And so when I said I, I I actually would want to know who you are. And then I would ask questions. Are you Elohim? And they would say, I would get the answer. It was, yes, we're Elohim. We belong to that brotherhood. And you are also. And I was being told also that I was one of them. That's why parang I was chosen in a way. Parang I was not exactly, I don't know if I was really chosen, but somehow parang I was brought back to where I am supposed to really be. Because at that moment, I didn't know where to go because I was practically being invited by other people from other denominations, other cultures, other religions. But I was brought back to this. And somehow it guided me, they guided me properly. And from there, I learned that the Elohim, that's why I got more interested in who the Elohim was. And so when I discovered all this Yahweh, all the gods, they're all part of the Elohim group. I mean, they're all gods. They were quarreling with each other because they were all given free will to do what they wanted to do, but they had the power to create whatever they wanted to create. And so we had this clash of gods actually during that time. That's why in the first commandment it was said, "Thou shalt not have strange gods. I am the Lord your God. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me or other gods." In other words, Yahweh was saying, "I am Yahweh, the only God you should uh, worship, and disregard the other gods because the other gods are not supposed to be taken seriously. But again, as I've said, Yahweh was the most, I would say, warrior like God among them. They were given, they were actually, they had different kinds of work during that time. Like El Elyon was their leader. If you really would read it in the Bible, you would see the names there.
Mm.
And it is specified really who these people are, these beings. El Elyon was their boss. El Shad, uh, Yahweh was one of them. Satan was one of them. Beelzebub, known as by another name there. But he was not exactly evil. He was what you call a devil's advocate. He would actually try to, position himself uh, on the other side to counteract exactly the claims of whatever that was being claimed at that time. So he would play that what we now call the devil's advocate. But he is not the devil as evil as what we have now accepted in religion. That's why a lot of times Satan was, I mean, they would actually converse. I mean, all this Elohim in some parts of the Bible, you would see how is it that Satan is practically one of them. It's just parang barkada lang sila. Yung ganun eh. So that was when I discovered really, I mean, everything that they told us was, I mean, in church was really false in terms of who these guys are. That's why they never wanted us to study the Old Testament because we will discover really who these beings really are. But
So,
that's what I want.
so would you,
Yes,
with you explaining that to us, a question came up that the viewer would probably appreciate too. Um, let's talk about simulation. So, with that said, with what you're explaining, that there's gods and they're playing roles, they're here. So, would you say that we are actually in a simulation right now? That
we are.
everybody is playing roles? Can
Yeah,
you
but now
expand on
again,
that?
uh, the veil is already thinning out. So that's why this is the greatest year now that we are going to experience everything that will transpire. That's why I'm really out in the open talking about all these things because we need to tell people now, hey, from now January till December, this is the most I would say uh, the kind of year that is so different from the past years that we have ever had because this is the time now that we will now really see the truth of who we are and the other beings from other galaxies will already support us and really say yes, we are one with you, we are here to help you out, not exactly help you out but because we're still in that stage as to in terms of evolving to a higher level of consciousness. But the moment we reach that higher level of consciousness, we are going to be their boss. Imagine, they know that, they acknowledge that, they know how powerful we are as human beings. That's why we're not supposed to be afraid of who we are as human beings. We're not just Tao or human only. We're practically super beings, divine
Okay.
as at that.
Okay. So, for people who's not familiar, again, with this concept, um, I would suggest be intentional when they do their research and in
Yeah, be
these
open, be
videos
more
that we're
open-minded.
yeah, in these videos that we're putting out, we're not telling you what to believe. You have to, do your own due diligence and take what resonate and be intentional when you do your research. Okay, we're not telling you what to believe. You have to do your own work and figure it out on your
Exactly.
own. So
That's
I just want to
exactly
make
what
that
happened
clear.
to me.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what happened to me. I mean, I did my own research on it and I
Mm-hmm.
came up with my own conclusions. Said,
Yep.
well, I was right after all. I mean, I was confirmed. I mean, all the things that I learned was confirmed by other believers as well. So I'm on the right path in terms of what I discovered.
Very
So
good.
we are now ascending to a real. Actually, no, we have ascended already. We are already now living in a new earth, a new world. But this new world is actually inside us. It's not exactly outside because outside you see the same earth. But again, even if we see the same earth, I see it differently from other people who see it negatively. I
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of beautiful things happening to me or
Mm-hmm.
happening out there in my presence. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy actually as a human being here on earth right now because I am not experiencing the struggles, the sufferings anymore of what I actually had to undergo or had to pass during that time. I mean, we had to go through during that time. Now the thing here is, it all starts from us, inside us, because everything outside is just a reflection. We are just showing or projecting what is inside us. So again, what do you see inside you, inside your imagination, your the way you see things, how you feel it? Practically, we do things kasi uh, in the in not the right way. What we kind of see outside is what we try to confirm as our work, when in fact, what we now see outside is what came out from inside us. So if you don't like what you see outside in your reality, that means just have to change what is inside your reality. How do you change your reality inside? By changing your beliefs, changing your thinking, changing your what you feel. That's all. And it all starts inside us, not outside. People, when they see outside, they just wait for something to happen that will create the kind of thing that they want. But they would want it to materialize from outside. But it doesn't happen that way. If you really want something to really happen differently, you start again working within you, yourself, by
And
changing your beliefs. Everything is out of what you believe. As what is always said, it is done unto you according to your belief.
mhm,
So it's practically easy. Change your belief. Why are you still clinging to the old beliefs? Now, yeah, of course, there are some subconscious beliefs that we still haven't acknowledged. That's why it keeps on recreating in our world the kind of things that are negative because we haven't addressed it yet. What are these? I mean, our programming, the things that were programmed to us when we were still very young. I mean, the teachings, the lessons we learned from parents, from schools, those are subliminals in terms of in our subconscious and it's still there, trying to create to still create what is supposed to be done because that's how we believe things should be. But it's not anymore that way. Now, okay, um, I actually would like to add to that. Okay, why is it that uh, things now? are already, in terms of what do we want to see, are still not there because we were programmed from the start to believe that we are not powerful, that we were just small beings, or not exactly godlike. We didn't have the powers. So they told us you never actually would measure up to God because you're far from it. But again, that's not true because who we are is exactly we are God as we just don't believe that we are. But the moment you
Mhm.
believe, you will already now see a different world that you will be living in. Now, the thing here is, okay, I'm not here now to say, oh, if you discover your superpowers or divine powers, you can create already the kind of a lot of money that you would want to have and to enjoy it to the max. But the thing here is, we are not anymore going to live a life of scarcity. That means we have everything. You know,
Mhm.
we are abundant in so many ways, so we don't actually try to feel there's this lack in us. Not anymore. Because practically, if you're God, as you have everything. And even Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within in us. And what is that kingdom? It is not a temple, it is not a castle, it's not a palace. It's our consciousness. Everything is in our consciousness. Kamalayan. That's why I'm so gung ho in promoting Kamalayan because practically people just don't understand what their Kamalayan can do to their lives because it is our consciousness that creates our reality. And if you have everything already in your consciousness, so what is lacking? Nothing. It's not anymore practical to say, well, I hope someday I will become rich so that I will have whatever. Now, the thing here is, whatever you want, you just think and you will now be able to create. Think, believe, and it is done unto you. That's exactly our power. Why don't people would I mean why don't people want that? I mean, it's easy. Papakahirap pa kayo kung ano-ano klaseng dasal ang ginagawa. I mean, yung sa Nazareno. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but then again, it's hard. I mean, why would suffer when you can do it differently, easier, easier? And that's what I'm trying to tell people. If you want the things that you would want to have in life, they're all already available in us. So why are we now still lacking in so many ways in terms of trying to find out exactly what to do so that I can earn this big money? All right, maybe we have to now tell people where did working for your money come from? They actually just program us. You have to work for your life, for a living. That's why they invented all these things. So they said, now for you to be able to 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 get that money, you have to work. Okay, okay. Look at the lives of the the trillionaires or the elite, for that matter. How did they become really rich? Did they work? No. What do they do in terms of who they are? They own the companies. All right, the big companies they own. What else? Uh, all right. Now the thing here is, all right. During the early years, how did they acquire their wealth? Again, as I've said, they didn't really work. They actually uh, had what you call, or rather, they inherited through inheritance. Many of their wealth came from previous generations who had created that kind of wealth, and then somehow they inherited them. You're talking of the Rockefellers, the ones that we know of now, uh, the ones who are controlling everyone, everything that is happening here on Earth. They inherited or they intermarry, or yeah, they get married to be able to get that kind of wealth from other people. They did not work. They actually just, that's why if you notice in a lot of royalties in Europe, who are those people who got married to each other? Relatives, first cousins, right? I mean, they were just uh, members of the family who got uh, married to each other so that they can control their wealth. It will not spread out to other people. They will not lose it to other people. Now, the thing is, what about the others? What about the common people? What did they do with the common people? They said, you have to work. They created that kind of a scenario where the others would work for them. All right? That's what happened. The elite was already enjoying their wealth. Now, to create more wealth, they will not work. They will ask people to become, not ask, but actually force people to become their slaves. So practically, we were all slaves during that time in terms of what we were doing, not knowing that it was slavery. Because what happened to us was it was presented to people in a way that it was legal, it was natural for us to be able to get that kind of money that will make us earn somehow. But would I mean by doing it, will we become rich in terms of how they wanted to do? I mean, how they wanted us to do it for them. I mean, we'll get a salary and that's it. But no amount of salary will make you rich. Again, that's how they controlled us. So they tried to say, no, but you get a salary. Now, what you do with your salary, they invented now the banks. Or you can save it in the bank so that you can have more savings. And then in the future, if you have more savings, you will get a lot, you will have a lot of money. You can buy a lot of things. But will you become as rich as them? No. They are able to now contain us, I mean, contain everyone on that level. So hawak nila tayo. Sila, ano doon. And somehow, how did they actually try to convince us that being a salaried person is okay? Through media, through education, through schools. See, the kind of education that they try to give us, did they try to make us, did they teach us how to really become rich in schools? No. They taught us how to become employees. See, I mean, all these things, they controlled us. So practically, that's how we live our life here. And so all these things are being dismantled. We are now seeing the real picture. That's why, hey, you know, you fooled us. You cannot fool us anymore. We are not going to work for you. We are not going to say, and the only way to really become rich is through, see, I mean, they didn't even try to tell us exactly how they did it. Ownership. You have to own the company. You have to own a business. You have to do it on your own. You will not get rich by being an employee or a salaried person. See, I mean, ownership practically, they did explain that to us. Now, knowing these things, people now, see, I mean, look at the people in the Philippines, especially. I mean, they're trying to now appeal to the government. Hey, give us something that we have to now be able to to enjoy in terms of, well, the prices of the goods, try to lower them down, and so somehow we are still at the mercy of the government. But again, knowing now that we were controlled by programming us, see, I mean, this is exactly what happened to us. But now we're awakened, and so we're now telling people, hey, we have now to uh, stand up straight and come up with our own businesses, our own way of doing things, and not anymore rely on being or rely being a or an employee. That's why now people now have to understand what to be, what it is to be an entrepreneur.
All right.
Create now your, yeah.
Good, good, good. I think before we move forward to our next topic, we um, we should end here because we already hit the 1 hour mark, and then we can continue
Okay.
again depending on time flies when we're so we can continue the conversation next week. But I think this is a good start. I mean, we covered a lot of things. We went from, understanding what alien and ETs are. We covered how you figured out that you're a hybrid. You explained your discovery of the Old Testament, and you shared the story as to your experience with the church authorities. So we will continue with our talk next week. I'm sure we have,
Yep.
um, more things to share with you that is relevant to the current timeline. But I suggest that, understand and as always, only take what resonate with you when you're watching these videos and do your own research, do your own due diligence. And one last
Yeah.
point that I wanted to make is when you're wanting something, let's say you want a new car, you want a house, you want a mansion. When you're in that mindset, you're actually tuned in to lack frequency. And in that frequency, you will not manifest what you want. Wanting
Exactly.
is a lack mindset. So I want to end it there. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye. Bye.